And now we will talk about true stories and teens that are changing their communities all over the world. These are all true, and they're stories from a lot of different communities. Some of the communities are very similar to yours. When I did the research for this program, I wanted to make sure that I was highlighting communities that had similar backgrounds, so that you would be set up for success, rather than if I tell you about a bunch of stuff that happened in New York City, you might say, well, yeah, whatever, that's New York City. This is a very different place from New York City. So, these are two guys that I met. Now, they do happen to live in a very different community. This was when I was in Ghana. I was in Ghana, Western Africa last year, writing one of the books and volunteering with librarians. And this young man in the blue shirt, his name is Prince Wadu. And I asked him about his name. I said, so Prince Wadu, are you really a prince? He said, okay, well, maybe not technically. But he said, I figured if I called myself Prince Wadu, first of all, people would take me really seriously when I talked to them. And second, I could walk into a room with some swagger. I was like, man, that's a smart guy. That is a smart young man. So, Prince Wadu had a huge challenge. Transportation. Is that a challenge for anybody in the room? Getting from place to place? Transportation. That was one of the #1 responses on the survey. Transportation was an issue. So where he lived, in Ghana, his high school, this sounds like a setup for a joke, but it's the honest to goodness truth. He had to walk 3 miles each way to go to high school. That is a long walk twice a day. And it took a lot of time away from study, and it took a lot of time away from just hanging out and having fun with his friends and doing activities. So when he was about 14, going on 15, he started thinking about what did the kids at his high school really like? They loved ice cream. And so Prince Wadu started selling ice cream over the lunch hour, and then he started selling little tubs of ice cream after school. And in less than a year, he raised enough money to buy a school bus for his school. Guess who didn't have to walk to school anymore? Pretty brilliant. This is Kristen, and she lives in North Carolina. And at her high school, her biology teacher was telling the class one day about an abandoned lot next to the tennis court. And that something should be done with this lot, but what could be done? Kristen is in the environmental club, and she voiced her opinion that they could transform that abandoned lot into a community garden. And that's what they did. Now, it took them 2 years to create the garden. They did a lot of research. They wanted to find out what crops would grow the best where they lived. And they also didn't realize when they first set out to do it, how much work gardening is. It does take a lot of work to prep it and prepare it, and then to actually grow the crops that you're going to grow. But by their second year, this community garden in an abandoned lot, first of all, it transformed this really ugly abandoned lot into something nice to look at. And a lot of the students would go out and hang out in the garden during lunch breaks and during study breaks, just to have somewhere quiet and calm to hang out. And then the other thing that they did was they used the produce from it to donate to the community, and they ended up collecting 135 bags of produce from this garden that was 50 feet by 70 feet, which I think is really impressive. And then they also had a huge dinner with each other. So a bank for ideas. A lot of ideas are probably going to come about by the end of today. And sometimes you might say, I have so many ideas, I don't know what to do with them, I don't know where to start. How do I connect to be able to make these ideas happen? So I met a young man, his name is David Kwame, and David Kwame, he started a program for high school and college students in his community. He would bring everyone together, kind of like we're together right now, and he would have inspirational speakers, motivational speakers come in from the community who had created really cool business opportunities. One of them was a woman who loved to make her own juice, and she started selling it out of the back of her pickup truck. And out of the back of the pickup truck, that turned into a food truck, and then that eventually actually turned into a small restaurant. And there was another woman who really liked designing clothing, and she ended up creating her own clothing company. And she was a teenager when she started, so this stuff is possible. Anyway, this idea is banking. The whole idea behind it is to have a space where you can meet, you can share ideas, you can connect to people who have money, you can connect to people who might have the incredible technical skills that you need, and everyone is connected together so that their projects can actually come to completion. And they do a contest, kind of like what's happening today. They do a contest where people present their projects in different areas. Like one of them was agriculture, and they were talking about better ways to plant things. And another one was things to do. There weren't enough things to do. So they had a contest about creating something to do that involved the arts, because that was something really important to them. And then they had another phase where it was people wanted to do small businesses and how might they be able to do it. And they had a contest, they presented their ideas, and then several were chosen and brought to completion. So I think an ideas banking is a really cool idea. So if you need more inspiration, there's a really cool website called dosomething.org. Dosomething.org, and I found a lot of really inspiring ideas on there, and ideas that many of them don't cost anything to do. Often that is a concern teenagers have, and adults do too. Like, oh man, is this going to cost a whole lot? So a bunch of the ideas that I'm going to share with you in just a moment cost close to nothing. Some of them cost something, but I want you to take that concern about funding and just put it over here for now. Because today is about generating ideas and thinking of those changes that you want to create, and the sky is the limit.